Polina's teacher is trying to calm down her new class. The kids are excited to be back at the island private school in Limassol after the summer break. 9-year-old Polina has been going to school here for almost a year, ever since her family moved to Cyprus from Moscow. They arrived a few months after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There are lots of new faces here after the holidays. Most of the children are from Russia and Ukraine, and Polina feels all muddled.
Everything felt normal at first, but when we arrived here in the car, I thought, I don't even know where my classroom is. Now I have a new class, and there are lots of new people here too.
So many new children have arrived that classes have been taking place in temporary containers. According to the EU, over 13,000 Ukrainians and 38,000 Russians have come to Cyprus since the war. The school's founder, Alexander Shkuratov, who's half Russian and half Ukrainian, has been overwhelmed with requests for spots at the school.
When parents apply, we have what we call value interviews. There could be some parents with quite aggressive, views, and they are either pro-war, against war, one country, the other countryside. We reserve the rights not to enroll these families in the school because we feel like it could be a source of tension and can destabilize the community.
The approach seems to be working. On the school playground in Limassol, all the kids play together. 80% of the pupils here come from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, but the war feels far away. You hear almost only Russian here, even though the island is an international private school. Classes are held in English.
In class, I like speaking English, but I prefer speaking Russian during break time. Most of my friends don't speak such good English, so it's easier.
Usually we speak Russian. Most of the students here speak Russian to each other. But if someone only speaks English, then we speak English to them.
People are speaking Russian, but they know English, but not all of them do. Not all of them know English.
After school, Polina chews the day over in the car. Her father, Max, has picked up her and her older sister, Maya. Their next stop is the center of Limassol. About once a week, the sisters get to pick out something sweet from one of the Russian shops in town. A treat from home.
We try to find the most important foods from every country. Food that gives people a taste of home, a taste of childhood.
A year ago in September, it was Russia's mobilization announcement that pushed Polina's father, Max, to leave with his family. The private equity fund manager doesn't want us to use his last name to protect his relatives back home. His mother's Ukrainian. Staying in an increasingly repressive Russia felt impossible to him.
If we'd stayed in Russia, it would have been hard to explain to the kids why they can't speak Ukrainian with their grandmother, or why they can't talk about the war.
The family feels comfortable in Limassol. The city's always been popular with Russians. It's sometimes called Moscow on the Med. In the 1990s, Cyprus became a tax haven for oligarchs. Now the IT industry is booming. Since the war, entire companies have moved here from Russia, in part because it's easier for Russians to get a visa here than in many other EU countries.
We always had Ukrainians living in Cyprus, Russians living in Cyprus, and Limassol hasn't changed.
The prices are really, really expensive, especially in Limassol, where Russians are.
It's quite difficult to find a proper house because the prices are high. Most people live with their parents.
Polina's mother, Katya, was born in Moscow. Back in the Russian capital, the family was planning to move into their freshly renovated dream apartment. But the war sent all their plans in Russia toppling down.
It was hard to suddenly end up without a home. It's tough not to have roots anymore. We sold everything in Moscow. We've really been welcomed in Cyprus, but still, we aren't really at home here yet.
In the current situation, I can't think of any reason why we would go back to Russia.
My fear, if I lived there, is that we would get used to this war, to this reality, to get used to the fact that violence and killing people is normalized, that you can no longer say what you think.
Art is Polina's favorite subject at school, along with gym class. She says she doesn't really miss her school in Moscow, though she does miss one of her friends, and she'd like to know what's next for her family.
I didn't really understand why we moved here or why we might go somewhere else. It feels like this is just a stopover on the plane, and no one knows the final destination of the plane, or at least, I don't know it.
Polina has already found new friends and is excited about 4th grade. Her family plans to stay in Cyprus for now, at least until the end of the school year.